The confrontation between the forces of this world plays itself out in a complex story of the events that unfold through the many machinations that men create by their various endeavors, composed of all sorts of intentions. To the public in general, things do not seem to have any particular pattern, nor does there seem to be much meaning behind most events. That for the average person, there is not much significant outside his daily coming and goings. But a careful examination of the interplay of these conflicting forces reveals complicated, cleverly schemed operation, which displays the actually deeply meaningful course of reality. That life is the conception of a much more sophisticated wisdom than what we had previously envisioned. The following is a humble attempt to expose some of that reality. We are in a particular period in time when darkness is predominating. Some of what you are about to watch may appear fantastic, but we must remember that our failure to apprehend such matters is merely the sad fact of underestimating our own selves. We underestimate the potential for good and bad in human beings because we underestimate ourselves. God created us with an intellect, but we fail to exercise it to its true potential. The capabilities of our intellect lie far beyond what we suspect. Welcome to the Solomon's Temple series.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
ولما جاءهم رسول من عند الله مصدق لما معهم نبذ فريق من الذين أوتوا الكتاب كتاب الله وراء ظهورهم كأنهم لا يعلمون واتبعوا ما تتلو الشياطين على ملك سليمان وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا يعلمون الناس السحر وما أنزل على الملكين ببابل هاروت وماروت وما يعلمان من أحد حتى يقولا إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر فيتعلمون منهما ما يفرقون به بين المرء وزوجه وما هم بضارين به من أحد إلا بإذن الله ويتعلمون ما يضرهم ولا ينفعهم ولقد علموا لمن اشتراه ما له في الآخرة من خلاق ولبئس ما شروا به أنفسهم لو كانوا يعلمون ولو أنهم آمنوا واتقوا لمثوبة من عند الله خير لو كانوا يعلمون.
The Masonic calendar traditionally dated from 4004 BC. The creation of the universe Anno Mundi, as computed by Archbishop James Ussher in 1650. This was inserted by Bishop William Lord of Winchester as a marginal note in the grade 1701 edition of the English Bible, where it remained without explanation until 1900 when Cambridge University Press removed it from further editions. By the mid-18th century, Masonic usage had shifted to the year of light, Anno Lucis, which dated from 4000 BC. There is no Masonic significance to either date, other than a desire by early Masonic writers to create as ancient a lineage for Freemasonry as their imaginations would allow. By using the 4000 date, they could claim that their usage predated Ussher as promotion of the theory that Jesus had been born 4 years earlier than claimed by Dionysius Exiguus, the 6th century creator of the BC AD time system. The Masonic date adds 4,000 years to the currently accepted origins of the Christian era, or year of our Lord. It is less than 3 centuries off the date given by the Jewish calendar which, in its present form, dates from the 4th century BC and counts the years since zero the creation of the world according to its own reading of the Bible. This calendar is not accepted everywhere. The Masons of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite, and in particular those at the Great Night Kaddish, use the Hebrew months and a calendar based on Jewish chronology, or Anno Hebraico, also known as Anno Mundi. This calendar begins in mid-September and adds 3,760 years onto the Gregorian calendar. According to the Masons, the temple is an image of the world, and the beginning of the world establishes time. This time is known as the Year of the Light, or Anno Lucis. Let us continue with the Masonic calendar. There are a total of 5 different calendars that are used by Freemasons. Craft Masonry's calendar commences with the creation of the world, and uses the term Anno Lucis, meaning, in the year of light. To arrive at this date, they add 4,000 to the common time, as the earth was believed in conventional theology to have begun in 4000 BC. Therefore the year 2007 becomes 6007. Royal Archmasons date time from the year the Second Temple was commended by Zerubbabel. Anno Inventionis, which means in the year of discovery, is the terminology used by chapters. This adds 530 to the common time, therefore the year 2007 becomes 2537. Royal and Select Masters, or Cryptic Masons, date from the year in which the Temple of Solomon was completed. It is called Anno Depositionis, which means, in the year of the deposit, and adds 1000 to the common time. Therefore the year 2007 becomes 3007. Knights Templar start their calendar with the formation of the order, in 1118 AD. Anno Ordinus, which means, in the year of the order, is the terminology used. This deducts 1118 from the common time. Therefore the year 2007 becomes 889. The Scottish Rite date the same as Craft Masons, except for the use of the Jewish chronology. Anno Mundi, which means, in the year of the world, is their calendar terminology, and adds 3760 to the common time. Therefore the year 2007 becomes 5767. The chamber of reflection is present only in certain Masonic rites. It's a small room in which the candidates are left on their own for a period before the initiation ceremony begins. Seated at a table, they write their philosophical will, which is later to be read out in the lodge. The initiate is alone with a sheet of paper and a pencil. The chamber of reflection is lit only by a candle, which casts its feeble light on a number of ornaments: a human skull, some bones, a lump of bread, a flask of water, an hourglass, a saucer containing salt and another containing sulfur. On the wall are murals painted in white on a black background, a cockerel, a scythe, and the word vitriol, or vitrolum, which is the ancient command to examine oneself. The chamber exists in the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite and continental European Lodge, but not in the emulation Rite.
How do we penetrate years, centuries of historical distortion to find original truth? Tonight, this will be our quest.
Throughout the ages, the ruling elite have known that man is not alone in the universe.
It is important to note that we are currently covering the fundamentals and historical aspects of Freemasonry. We will reach a more in-depth discussion about the craft at a later stage. This series hopes to cover all aspects about the subject matter, including but not limited to Freemasonry, the Kabbalah, black magic, the Illuminati, atheism, the Jinn, and Zionism, just to mention a few topics. I do hope that you will be patient and focused, to be able to see the bigger picture, that I hope to be able to illustrate towards the conclusion of the series. With God's blessings, let us continue. Let us begin by defining a few terms. Operative Masons are the early stonemasons, more famously known for building the Gothic cathedrals, abbeys and castles of Europe. However, the first Grand Lodge of Speculative Masonry was founded in London, in June of 1717. The Freemasons began to accept what is known as Speculative Masons, or in other words, ordinary people, who did not possess any of the stonemasons' knowledge, or building construction abilities. Outsiders, or non-Masons, are labeled as profanes by the Masons. The reason why Masons use such a condescending term for non-Masons is because they do not possess the knowledge the Masons do, simply put.
And the star on his skin?
Pinnacle.
And its meaning?
Pinnacle is a pagan religious icon.
Devil worship.
So where does Freemasonry originate from? In the Cook manuscript of 1410, one of the oldest known texts which deals with Freemasonry, we read that, at the time of the construction of the Temple of Solomon, begun by King David, Solomon employed 24,000 masons, and Solomon confirmed the rights which his father David had bestowed upon the masons. Solomon himself taught them their methods, that is to say their traditions and practices, which are not very different than the rituals and rites practiced by today's masons. Operative masons who read this text saw it as a historical truth. They believed that they were applying a craft which dated back to the time of King Solomon, and which he had codified. However, the date of the construction of King Solomon's temple has not always been the key date in the Freemasons' cosmology. This central role was once given to the Tower of Babel, the Regius manuscript, which predates the Cook manuscript by 20 years, cites King Nimrod, the builder of the famous Tower of Babel, as the first and most excellent master. He it was, and not King Solomon, who gave the Masons their first charge, or in other words, their first rites, rituals, and practices. Masonic text known as the Thistle manuscript of 1756 says that King Nimrod created the Masons and gave them their signs and terms so that they could distinguish themselves from other people, or the profanes. It was the first time that the Masons were organized as a craft. It was during the early years of the 18th century that Freemasonry stopped seeing its origins in the Tower of Babel, and that King Solomon alone was considered the first Grand Master. The 18th century Masonic texts shed light on the ideas and attitudes at the time of the shift from operative Masonry to speculative Masonry. These texts are called the early catechisms. This strange and sudden shift by speculative Masons, who wanted to break away from the origins of the craft, which honored the Tower of Babel and King Nimrod, they instead preferred our wise King Solomon, or as a Mason's examination of 1723 puts it, Grand Master in his time of Masonry and architecture.
My master is here.
Tell my Lord Saladin, that Jerusalem has come.
I pray you pull back your cavalry and leave this matter to me.
I pray you retire unharmed to Damascus. Reynaud of Chatillon will be punished. I swear it. Withdraw, we will all die here. we have terms?
We have terms. I will send you my physicians.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
We have established that the origins of Freemasonry stem from ancient Babylon, which then made its way to Jerusalem, according to Masonic history. So how did the craft end up in Europe? Were the stonemasons really the originators of Freemasonry, or even the first Masons? How did these European stonemasons, or operative Masons, get their hands on something that was founded in the Middle East? Or were the stonemasons of Europe used as a cover or a scapegoat by someone else to be able to maintain their secret order? Let us examine this very carefully and trace back the correct history of the Freemasons. Please pay very close attention to the following.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
ولما جاءهم رسول من عند الله مصدق لما معهم نبذ فريق من الذين أوتوا الكتاب كتاب الله وراء ظهورهم كأنهم لا يعلمون واتبعوا ما تتلو الشياطين على ملك سليمان وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا يعلمون الناس السحر وما أنزل على الملكين ببابل هاروت وماروت وما يعلمان من أحد حتى يقولا إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر فيتعلمون منهما ما يفرقون به بين المرء وزوجه وما هم بضارين به من أحد إلا بإذن الله ويتعلمون ما يضرهم ولا ينفعهم ولقد علموا لمن اشتراه ما له في الآخرة من خلاق ولبئس ما شروا به أنفسهم لو كانوا يعلمون ولو أنهم آمنوا واتقوا لمثوبة من عند الله خير لو كانوا يعلمون.
Let us analyze the Quranic verses we've just heard. Many occult organizations, Satanists, Kabbalists, Freemasons, and many others attribute false accusations against Prophet Solomon, may the peace and blessings of God be upon him. A book, titled the Gosha, the Lesser Key of Solomon the King, first appeared in the 17th century, but much was taken from texts of the 16th century, including the Pseudemonarchia Daemonum, by Johann Weyer, and late medieval grimoires. It is likely that books by Jewish Kabbalists and mystics were also inspirations, and I will shortly explain further as to where exactly this knowledge has come from. Some of the material in the first section of the book, concerning the summoning of demons, dates to the 14th century and even earlier. The book claims that it was originally written by King Solomon, although this is certainly incorrect. The titles of nobility assigned to the demons were unknown in his time, as were the prayers to Jesus, "May the peace and blessings of God be upon him," and the Christian Trinity included in the text. The Gosha contains detailed descriptions of spirits and the conjurations needed to invoke and oblige them to do the will of the conjurer, referred to as the exorcist. It details the protective signs and rituals to be performed, the actions necessary to prevent the spirits, we will refer to these spirits as jinn, for the correct terminology, from gaining control, the preparations prior to the invocations, and instructions on how to make the necessary instruments for the execution of these rituals. In and on about the year 597 BC, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon besieged the kingdom of Judah, destroyed the first temple built by Prophet Solomon. He also exiled many of the children of Israel back to Babylon, and took them in as slaves, including the household of many of the elites. Babylonian records, called the Jehoiachin's Rations tablets, written in cuneiform and dating to 592 BC, mention some of the children of Israel elites as being recipients of food ration in Babylon. These years are called the Babylonian exile, or the Babylonian captivity. The Babylonian exile is distinguished from the earlier exile of citizens of the northern kingdom of Israel to Assyria around 722 BC. The exile in Babylon, which directly affected mainly those of the upper class of society, occurred in three ways from 597 to 581 BC, as a result of the children of Israel, rebellions against Babylonian rule. Many of the exiles' elite, finding themselves in comfortable circumstances, assimilated into Babylonian society in ways that concerned the pious among them. We read this from the Bible. Ezekiel denounced such men as a rebellious house, and parts of the book of Isaiah, written during exilic times, likewise expressed concern over the adoption of Babylonian traditions. So what were these traditions that were learned by the children of Israel?
يعلمون الناس السحر وما أنزل على الملكين ببابل هاروت وماروت وما يعلمان من أحد حتى يقولا إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر.
The two angels must have come down in human form to teach those who wanted to learn, after warning them, as stated in God's book. In another chapter in regards to angels taking on human form, we read,
وَلَقَدْ جَاءَتْ رُسُلُنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ بِالْبُشْرَى قَالُوا سَلَامًا قَالَ سَلَامٌ فَمَا لَبِثَ أَنْ جَاءَ بِعِجْلٍ حَنِيذٍ فَلَمَّا رَأَى أَيْدِيَهُمْ لَا تَصِلُ إِلَيْهِ نَكِرَهُمْ وَأَوْجَسَ مِنْهُمْ خِيفَةً قَالُوا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّا أُرْسِلْنَا إِلَى قَوْمِ لُوطٍ.
Black magic is performed when a human magician communicates with the jinn and demands something, and in return, the jinn demands something from the human magician, like disbelief in God, to drink blood, a sacrifice, or to be worshipped, etc. We read from God's book.
وَأَنَّهُ كَانَ رِجَالٌ مِّنَ الْإِنسِ يَعُوذُونَ بِرِجَالٍ مِّنَ الْجِنِّ فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا.
The jinn did not only teach some of the children of Israel the magical arts, once they had found out how to contact the jinn, by the two angels, although they were forewarned, it would equate to disbelief in God, and it was only a mere test of their faith. Many of them wrote down the instructions on how to perform black magic, and have tried to keep it a secret ever since. The jinn continued to teach them magic, and accused Prophet Solomon of committing disbelief, by practicing black magic. This is the reason why black magic practiced by many occultists today is associated with Prophet Solomon, due to these accusations by the jinn, which were then adopted and transmitted by the Jews and other occultists, to this very day. So why did the jinn accuse Prophet Solomon of practicing magic? Because Prophet Solomon had power over the jinn, he enslaved them as a punishment for their evil doings. We read from the Book of God.
وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا سُلَيْمَانَ وَأَلْقَيْنَا عَلَى كُرْسِيِّهِ جَسَدًا ثُمَّ أَنَابَ قَالَ رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَّا يَنبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي إِنَّكَ أَنتَ الْوَهَّابُ فَسَخَّرْنَا لَهُ الرِّيحَ تَجْرِي بِأَمْرِهِ رُخَاءً حَيْثُ أَصَابَ والشياطين كل بناء وغواص وآخرين مقرنين في الأصفاد هذا عطاؤنا فامنن أو أمسك بغير حساب.
These be the 72 mighty kings and princes which King Solomon commanded into a vessel of brass, together with their legions. And it is to be noted that Solomon did this because of their pride. And when he had thus bound them up and sealed the vessel, he, by divine power, did hurl them into the depths of the lake in Babylon.
The black magicians have their mysticism, and they always firmly believe that they walk on the good path. No black magician believes that he walks on the evil path. The path of black magic is a broad way filled with vices and pleasures, but the ultimate end is total loss.
Worship enters into it, but as something that you choose to do to get the benefit of it. The Easterners have a term for it called bhakti yoga. It means the yoga of worship, but yoga is a system. So if we worship a deity, a goddess, or a god or something like that, we're doing it for a purpose. The Lemegeton and the Greater Key of Solomon, these handbooks of magic were attributed to Solomon for two reasons. Number one, he was the great magician, the legendary magician, and number two, these people were afraid to put their real names on the books because they'd get burned at the stake. Solomon is, of course, originally the king of Israel in the Book of Kings in the Bible. And he lived around 800 BC, and he was the great king who built Solomon's temple. So now from his legend, if you will, arises the Masonic fraternity, and also arises the legend of Solomon the great magician. He supposedly mastered the demons and the spirits, and as the Arabians say, the jinn. I didn't bother to do a closing pentagram or to close the circle or to banish the spirit or anything like that. So we just left. And then 3 hours later, she grabbed me out of a sound sleep and sunk her fingernails into me and woke me up, and she was staring up at the ceiling, and she said, "There he is." And I had to drag her back into the circle, and we had to exorcise that spirit.
Magical rituals weren't only prominent in Babylon, or later in the Kingdom of Judah. It was also very much part of ancient Egypt, and was also part of their religious practices. Ancient Egyptian religion was a complex system of beliefs and rituals which was integral to ancient Egyptian society. It centered on the Egyptians' interaction with a multitude of deities, who were believed to be present in, and in control of, the forces and elements of nature. The myths about these gods were meant to explain the origins and behavior of the forces they represented, and the practices of Egyptian religion were efforts to provide for the gods and gain their favor. Formal religious practice centered on the pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Although he was a human, the pharaoh was believed to possess a divine power, and was considered a god by virtue of his kingship. He acted as the intermediary between his people and the gods, and was obligated to sustain the gods through rituals and offerings so that they could maintain order in the universe. Therefore, the state dedicated enormous resources to the performance of these rituals and to the construction of the temples where they were carried out. Individuals could also interact with the gods for their own purposes, appealing for their help through prayer or compelling them to act through magic. As the mystery religion spread all over the world from Babylon, they found expression in all countries of the ancient world with only a change in the names of the gods and slight variations in the rituals. While the mystery religions were practiced in all of the countries of the ancient world, it was in Egypt where centuries of devotion developed them to their highest degree. According to Mason Manly P. Hall's book, Freemasonry, the Ancient Egyptians, and I quote, "It is now generally acknowledged that the Egyptians, of all the ancient peoples, were the most learned in the occult sciences of nature. The wisest of philosophers from other nations visited Egypt to be initiated in the sacred mysteries by the priests of Thebes, Memphis, and Hermopolis. There is indeed, as we have established, a very definite link between the Egyptian mystery religion and the Masonic Lodge. This link can be readily established from the words of Masonic authors, and testimony can be provided to remove all reasonable doubt." In the book, The Meaning of Masonry, by past Provincial Grand Registrar, W. L. Wilmshurst, we find the statement, and I quote, "I am acquainted, for instance, with an Egyptian ceremonial system, some 5,000 years old, which taught precisely the same things as Masonry does." In the book, Freemasonry, Its Hidden Meaning, by George H. Steinmetz, we find the statement, and I quote, "Regardless of the origin of the modern lodge, or the name Freemason, we can, after freeing the symbolism of modern adaptations, discern in Freemasonry the outline of the teachings of the ancient mysteries of Egypt." In the same book, Mr. Steinmetz makes the statement connecting Freemasonry and the Egyptian mysteries. And I quote, "If the symbols can be consistently interpreted in this manner, throughout the 3 degrees we have confirmed Freemasonry to be the reincarnation of the ancient mysteries of Egypt." 33-degree Mason Manly P. Hall relates the efforts of early Masonic historians to link Hiram Abiff to the Egyptian mystery religion. Early Masonic historians such as Albert Mackey, Robert Fregould and Albert Pike were of a single purpose in their efforts to establish a definite correspondence between the Hiramic legend of Freemasonry and the Osiris myth as expounded in the initiatory rituals of the Egyptians. From the Lost Keys of Freemasonry by 33rd degree Manly P. Hall, man is a god in the making, and as in the mystic myths of Egypt on the potter's wheel he is being molded. Unas eats magical charms, behold, Unas eateth of that which the red crown sendeth forth, he increaseth, and the magical charms of the gods are in his belly. The following quote is a comment on the texts about King Unas by the translator of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, each Wallace Budge, the notion that, by eating the flesh, or particularly by drinking the blood, of another living being, a man absorbs his nature or life into his own, is one which appears among primitive peoples in many forms. It is indeed an accurate assessment that these murders in the Unas texts were performed in a ritual and religious manner for the purpose of obtaining the life force or energy force of the victim. Not only was this the purpose of these ancient Egyptian texts, but it is also the purpose behind modern Satanism. This common underlying purpose can be seen by comparing these texts and their assessment with the words of Master Satanist, a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Grand Master, and a 97th degree the Rite of Memphis, of Aleister Crowley. He writes, and I quote, "The blood is the life." This simple statement is explained by the Hindus by saying that the blood is the principal vehicle of vital prana. It was the theory of the ancient magicians that any living being is a storehouse of energy, varying in quantity according to the size and health of the animal, and in quality according to its mental and moral character. At the death of the animal, this energy is liberated suddenly. For magical purposes, the animal should therefore be killed within a circle, or the triangle, as the case may be, so that its energy cannot escape. An animal should be selected whose nature accords with that of the ceremony. For the highest spiritual working, one must accordingly choose that victim which contains the greatest and purest force. A male child of perfect innocence and high intelligence is the most satisfactory and suitable victim. Those magicians who object to the use of blood have endeavored to replace it with incense. But the bloody sacrifice, though more dangerous, is more efficacious. And for nearly all purposes, human sacrifice is the best. Here is an undercover footage of a goat being sacrificed inside a pentagram in a Masonic lodge in Turkey for a high degree initiation.
Whatever part of the world thou art, and answer our questions. Come presently, come visibly, come Africa, manifest that which we desire. All of the true living God. We call Shaddai, come, wide is thy area. Adonai, Shaddai, Spirit.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
قل أوحي إلي أنه استمع نفر من الجن فقالوا إنا سمعنا قرآنا عجبا يهدي إلى الرشد فآمنا به ولن نشرك بربنا أحدا وأنه تعالى جد ربنا ما اتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا وأنه كان يقول سفيهنا على الله شططا وأنا ظننا أن لن تقول الإنس والجن على الله كذبا وأنه كان رجال من الإنس يعوذون برجال من الجن فزادوهم رهقا وأنهم ظنوا كما ظننتم أن لن يبعث الله أحدا.
We will discuss the jinn in great detail in a later episode, so stay tuned. Let us re-ask the question then, how did Freemasonry end up in Europe? 11th century Europe was ruled by the Catholic Church, which held a firm grip on all aspects of society. This enabled Pope Urban II to wage war on the Muslim Caliphate in Jerusalem, the First Crusade, and on what he called the War of the Cross, to recapture Jerusalem from Muslim rule. It had been under Muslim rule since the year 637. But in 1099 this rule was brought to a bloody and sudden end. And it was said that the blood ran in the streets, knee-high to the horses. Women were raped and murdered, and children were put to the sword. Out of this bloodshed and terror, a group of warrior monks arose. The Knights of the Temple of Solomon, or what they were later to be known by, the Knights Templars. 20 years after Jerusalem was taken, the dome of the Roth Mosque was seized by the Templars, and they began excavating underneath the mosque, and what they found changed history forever. What did they find? Documents and books of the secret arts of black magic, Kabbalah, and the ancient mystery scrolls. In 1187, After 200 years of war, the Muslims recaptured Jerusalem under the leadership of Saladin.
Will you yield the city?
Before I lose it, I will burn it to the ground. Your holy places, ours, every last thing in Jerusalem that drives men mad.
I wonder if it would not be better if you did. You will destroy it?
Every stone. And every Christian knight you kill will take 10 Saracens with him. You will destroy your army here and never raise another. I swear to God that to take this city will be the end of you.
Your city is full of women and children. If my army will die, so will your city.
You offer terms, I ask none.
I will give every soul safe conduct to Christian lands. Every soul. The women, the children, the old, and all your knights and soldiers, and your queen. Your king, such as he is, I leave to you, and what God will make of it. No one will be harmed, I swear to God.
The Christians butchered every Muslim within the walls when they took this city.
I am not those men. I am Salahuddin. Salahuddin.
Once the Templars arrived back in Europe, they became very wealthy, they became the bankers, and the finances of all the European monarchs. In 1307, or 120 years after their departure from Jerusalem, their secret order was in place and fully operational. Pope Clement VII and King Philip of France accused the Templars of several heresies, including devil worship, black magic, sodomy, and many other mortal sins, which were part of their newfound rituals. The Templars were rounded up, tortured, imprisoned, and put to death. But a few of them managed to escape the same fate of their brethren, and that's when they went underground and changed their identity from the Knights Templars to the Freemasons. They found home in Scotland. King Robert the Bruce was excommunicated by the Pope, so the Knights Templars or Freemasons were welcomed with open arms. Both shared the same enemy, the Catholic Church. In the mid-15th century, the Crusader William Sinclair started construction of Rosslyn Chapel, which is the first landmark of the Freemasons and is supposed to be a representation of Solomon's Temple. Another William Sinclair was the first Scottish Grand Master of Freemasonry at Colwinning Lodge, which is the first Freemasonic lodge, also called the Mother Lodge, or Lodge Number 0.
2,000 years before mankind was created, there were creatures on the earth, and they caused corruption on it and shed blood. Then God sent against them a troop of angels who casted them away to islands in the seas. It is time to start defining and explain some of our subject matter I have mentioned previously, and will continue to mention throughout the series. We will go back and sketch the history of the Masons and further discuss their craft. But for now, let us ask a question: who are, or what are the Jinn? They are unseen creatures that we share this earth with. They are interdimensional creatures that have been called by many names: aliens, spirits, Ethereans, ultra-terrestrials, and more. In God's book, the Holy Quran, their creator, God Almighty, gives them a name: the Jinn. The Arabic word, jinn, means hidden, or that which is concealed. Under normal circumstances, they can see us, and we cannot see them. The jinn have a free will to choose, just like human beings. The Bible calls Satan a fallen angel. This is incorrect. Angels were created from pure light, and do not have free will or the ability to choose. They only obey the orders of their Creator. The jinn are of three types: those who have wings and fly in the air, those who resemble snakes and dogs, and those who travel about ceaselessly. No human can see the jinn in their true essence. However, some resemble vultures and snakes, others tall men in white garb. They may even appear as dragons, or a number of other animals. In addition to their animal forms, the jinn occasionally assume human form to mislead and destroy their human victims. For example, in one of the historical battles of the Muslims, named the Battle of Badr, the most powerful amongst the jinn, or Satan, assumed the form of a man named Suraka ibn Malik, and urged the pagan Arabs to move forward to the battle, saying, Then God sent the angel Gabriel against him, and when Satan saw him, he cried out to the pagans, I have nothing to do with you. I see that which ye do not see. I fear Allah, and Allah is severe in retribution, and then he fled. The jinn can even possess human beings, including in black magic rituals, when they are summoned by the magicians. I will explain with little more detail on how this is done by the magicians, and show you via video illustration. Unlike humans, the jinn live for thousands of years, and have the ability to see angels as previously mentioned. Let us view a video, which shows the Islamic exorcism. A jinn who is 7,000 years old, has possessed a man.
فاريا شوف تغير اسمه يقول اسمي فاريا فاريا وين أهلك فاريا؟ كونغو كونغو شنو كونغو أستاذ كونغو شيا؟
كونغو اسم المملكة جمهورية في أفريقيا.
في أفريقيا نعم. كونغو أنت شو اسمك؟
فاريا فاريا
فاريا أنت مسلم مسيحي يهودي؟ جولكا يعني يهودي. شو يقول أستاذ؟ يهودي. يقول عن يهودي. كل الزين الله أكبر. شوف أنت مرة ثانية تجي يمي مو صحيح يا هذا الأخ علي محمد جيت يمي يقول نعم نعم. أنت تستسلم لما تستسلم ده يا مسلمان يا نبي مسلمان. أبم قربان تو تمنى كم صار؟ بالله بس درو مكان درو كله ده. كم صار قربان؟ لازم انتو راز بالله تمنى كم ده؟ بس سببك. حتى زار صار حوازار درون عقي. الله أكبر. هذا يقول أني مرأة عمري 7,000 سنة وأني أهلي بالكونغو هو منطقة أفريقيا. أنت أسود أترشي
أشبستي
قربان تو ساحران دناسي في الغازة دناسي؟
لا 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 لا
قربان تو بو شاتنا ولا شيء؟
قربان يا أسينا هو استابو
ايه
ايش بدو أسينا تقوى ايش بدو أسينا تقوى نحن هو استابو أميس شمعنا شيء زور شجاع بخ جوان بالتشاوك يا كاري ترى
عشق يقول يقول هذا كان يشتغل باليونان
يشتغل باليونان وأنا عاشق لأنه جميل جدا.
أنت بارك الله تو أتواني بسبب لشيهم كسير؟
لا
هذه بو ولا لا شيء من لا شيء هون
لا
بو ناتواني ولا لا شيء من وازي لي بينا
ناتواني
بو أخذ بو ناتواني تخواب زام لبرسي بو ناتواني سبوكا راسي كان بلي عزك معك كتبرات وخلو دلين جندلويا
ناتواني
هذه بوت عندهم عالي مكان ما مستحق إنكار ذكر قسم من الشيوخ وساداته الدكتور طارق الهاشمي هو عنده قناة فضائية يقول الجن هو وسواس ما يعبد جسم الإنسان هذا كلام صحيح؟
لا
يدخل جسم الإنسان جني؟
نعم
اسمع يا الدكتور طارق الهاشمي وأيها العلماء الإسلام أنتم تقول احنا عالمين هذا يقول الجن يدخل جسم الإنسان وهذا شو بعينكم صوت وصورة زورن
الابرو
كده الامرو
طلع
نتشندر قربان نتشندر يقول الملائكة يقول روح إذا ما تروح سيرا ندير كوجينا في الروين استهدنا هذا الشيء اللي برامج راوتان نتشندر
وهو استاون
وزورن
والله
ملائكة زورنا
خاوني لوران
أمن سمكيا
كتير
كيف كتير
قرآن
الله أكبر يقول عندك كتب عليها القرآن معجزة الله أكبر ورس برنامج إخوان عيد برنامج قل أوحي إلي أنه استمع نفر من الجن فقالوا إنا سمعنا قرآنا عجبا يهدي إلى الرشد فآمنا به ولن نشرك بربنا أحدا وأنه تعالى جد ربنا ما اتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا ولهم عذاب واصب إلا من خطف الخطفة فأتبعه شهاب ثاقب صدق الله العظيم. تيجي شو قربان؟ الزباب شهادة بنا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله
أشهد
أن لا إله إلا الله
أن لا إله
إلا الله
وأشهد أن
محمدا رسول الله وعيسى رسول الله رسول الله عبد الله وموسى نبي الله عبد الله استاذ يا ربي قال باذن يخش لي زورك يا ربي قال لهم من عفان وقال فمدو ولا تقنطوا من رحمه قربان السيد كان زور صحيح نقول في الفزانه يلا شوف لنا هذا البدايه ان شاء الله نادي شو الرداء حسك استاذ الشام بن حسك اولاد يقفوا وجرشوا للمسلمه او يقول لك عفريتك حسك انه عفريت يقول عفريتم
والله عفريتم مش هم جوري معلومات بسبب ذلك الكدوانه من زبون ذلك كزان من نخوش درنيه يعني.
There's one thing you should know about me.
You talking about dreams?
Not exactly.
create the world of the dream. We bring the subject into that dream.
Real while we're in them. It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange. I have it under control.
I'd hate to see out of control.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. That was his power.
Are you hypnotized right now? Be honest.
No, I'm awake.
You're awake. Totally awake. Are you hypnotized, ma'am? You guess so? Okay. Are you hypnotized?
No.
You are not hypnotized. Are you hypnotized?
No.
No. Your name, ma'am?
Patty.
Your name, sir?
Mary.
Your name is?
Mary.
Your name is?
Patty.
Your name is?
Bob.
Your name is?
Bob.
Could I see your name tag just a second if you don't mind? It says Karen. What's your name?
Bob.
Are you positive?
Yes.
Are you positive your name is Mary?
Yes.
Are you a betting person? I got a bet you might be interested in. I'm willing to bet you $500 that your name is actually Paul, not Mary. I'll bet you $500 your name is Paul. Would you take that bet?
No.
What's your name?
Mary.
I'll bet it's Paul. Would you bet $500 it's Mary?
Yeah.
Would you shake on that? Before you shake. How many people in this room think his name is Paul? Can I see by show of hands? See all those hands up there? See them all? How many people think his name is Mary? See up.
واستفزز من استطعت منهم بصوتك وأجلب عليهم بخيلك ورجلك وشاركهم في الأموال والأولاد وعدهم وما يعدهم الشيطان إلا غرورا إن عبادي ليس لك عليهم سلطان وكفى بربك وكيلا.
Your brain, the most complex organ in your body, the seat of who we are, what we are, the container for our thoughts and our memories. In short, we are our brains. Our brains are built from many parts that perform different functions. Deep in the centre of the brain is the brainstem. This is the oldest part of the brain, and has also been called the reptilian brain. It controls many essential functions such as breathing, heart rate, or blood pressure. It's whether we feel hungry or thirsty. It's also the seat of our most fundamental emotions: happiness or sadness, fear and love or hate. They all seem to reside in the brainstem. The occipital lobe contains the visual cortex, and so is concerned mainly with vision. The parietal lobe is concerned with processing sensory information and integrating it with the visual information from the occipital lobe. The temporal lobe is the centre for memory and learning. It contains the hippocampus and a number of other regions that are required for us to recognise different objects, faces, sounds and environments. The frontal lobe is probably the most important part of the brain for defining us as who we are. It's where our higher emotions and personality reside, as well as language and social behaviour, lots of the things that we think of as being human. It's our decision-making centre and contains the motor cortex, which controls voluntary movement. At the back of the brain are the two lobes of the cerebellum. This region of the brain is a coordinating centre for movement, allowing us to move multiple sets of muscles in a coordinated fashion so that we can walk and talk, pick things up and put things down. Your brain is made up of billions upon billions of cells called neurons. These cells are very specialised, with long extensions through which they talk to each other and form large and complex networks. These networks are the basis of how the brain does what it does. The processes are of two basic types. Dendrites receive incoming information from other neurons. Signals pass through the cell body or soma, where, if sufficient information is received, a signal is passed to the other neurons via the axon. This is happening in billions of neurons across the brain, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's happening right now while you're watching this. So how do neurons talk to each other? Neurons are usually seen to use electrical signals to communicate. However, the act of passing the signal from one neuron to another is actually a chemical process. This happens at structures called synapses. These are formed from the terminal of an axon and a swelling on the dendrite called a spine. Electrical signals from the axon pass to the dendrite via a chemical messenger called a neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter is stored in the small vesicles inside the axon terminal, or the presynaptic bouton. When a signal arrives down the axon, one or more of these vesicles joins with the outer membrane of the bouton and releases its contents into a small gap between the axon and dendrite. This is the synaptic cleft. On the other side of the synaptic cleft are receptor molecules to which the transmitter binds in much the same way as a key fits into a lock. The receptor molecules act as pores through the outer membrane of the dendritic spine, allowing charged atoms or ions to cross. This entry of charged ions into the spine recreates the signal that was sent from the previous neuron, and in this way information can be passed from one neuron to the next and around the neuronal network. Although we've seen only one neuron here talking to one other neuron, in reality each neuron talks to many, many others and can have thousands upon thousands of spines. In this way, an extraordinarily complex system can be built that allows us to see, hear, to experience the world around us. It allows us to walk and talk, and to laugh and cry, and to be who we are. So we really are our brain.
astral body is a tool of the self to perceive other frequency realities. Astral body is one more form of our consciousness, just like our physical body. In normal condition, our consciousness is spread throughout our physical body. When we receive sufficient amount of energy and when we feel to perceive other frequency realities, consciousness moves in the form of astral body. We perceive astral body experiences unconsciously in our sleep, which we call dreams. One can perceive astral body experiences consciously in meditation. Astral body travels beyond space and time. After conscious astral experiences, we start perceiving new dimensions. In meditation, after receiving abundant cosmic energy, the consciousness which is spread everywhere in the body starts moving towards a point. While consciousness is moving, we experience jerks in the physical body. We feel as if our body is floating. We don't feel the hands and legs. We feel lightness of the body, like a feather. Movements may be experienced in different parts of the body, or sometimes one may experience as if the whole body is rotating. These are known as astral movements. By practicing more and more meditation, we get more cosmic energy. The consciousness takes the form like an astral body, starts rotating very fast, which causes heavy movements. After the movements, the astral body starts coming out of the physical body with a link called silver cord. Silver cord is nothing but a high vibrant consciousness which transfers the messages of the physical body to the astral body and vice versa. With this we do astral travel. Astral travel is a travel of our consciousness to known and unknown places and frequencies. By doing astral travel, we get highest knowledge and understanding of the self. In astral travel, our astral body can pass through all physical materials. All elements like earth, water, fire, wind, and ether. Astral body can go to all other frequencies without any limitations. After coming out of the body, the meditator sees his own physical body. By this he gets a great understanding.
When one astral projects or astral travels, what is it that you are projecting out of the body? Well, first, let me tell you about your two main bodies. You have the physical body, which you've become quite familiar with through your entire life. And then there's your astral or etheric body. When you astral project, it is your astral body that gets projected. You see, for each plane there is, you have a specific body for it. So for the physical plane, you have your physical body, and for the astral plane, you have your astral body. What is the easiest and fastest method of astral projection that works for everyone? Well, not everyone can wear the same clothes because we all have different bodies. It's the same way with astral projection. We're all different. So there isn't just one method for everyone. There are actually hundreds of astral projection techniques available. How often can you astral project? You can project as many times as you wish, but remember, you need to maintain a balance between the astral plane and the physical plane. My dreams are so vivid. Is this astral projection? When your dreams are extremely vivid, you're either lucid dreaming or astral projecting. Or, if it was an astral projection, you may have lost consciousness somewhere during the process and slipped into a dream. Can two people in a room astral project at the same time and meet up in the astral realms? Yes, you can astral project together. You can see each other, you can communicate, and share an astral experience together. During one of my astral projection sessions, I felt as if my entire body was being electrocuted. I totally freaked out. What was that? Well, you have reached the vibrational stage, and the feelings of electricity are feelings of the symptoms of successfully astral projecting. The next time this happens, stay calm and observe what is happening objectively without freaking out. Once you do this, you will successfully astral project. So try again, and the next time you reach that stage, don't panic. Just know that you are very close to success. I often get intense vibrations throughout my body, but I can't go beyond that point. What can I do? Well, if you reach the vibrational stage, the hard part is done. You just need to exercise strong willpower and visualize yourself floating upward. If you feel you have a fear that is preventing you, check out my previous answers on how to overcome fear. Once you overcome whatever fears you have, you're just one step away from a successful, conscious astral projection experience. How do I enter the vibrational stage? Before getting into the vibrational stage, you need to relax your body completely. Once you relax completely and reach the stage of sleep paralysis, you will then begin to vibrate and then astral project. All it takes to get back in your body is a thought, but I often find myself in a paralyzed state. This lasts many minutes and makes me incredibly nervous. What is this feeling? Well, yes, getting back into your body is just a thought away. If you feel paralyzed, that means you're already back in your body. This is a common occurrence and a very healthy one. So just relax, and there's no need to panic. I get vibrations, but I've also read about buzzing sounds, and I never get those in my ears. Why is that? Not all people hear the buzzing sounds. Individuals, just like experiences, are unique, so don't worry. What is astral paralysis? Astral paralysis, or astral catalepsy, occurs either before the astral body is about to leave the physical body or just after it returns to your body. During this state, you might feel that your physical body is in a state of paralysis or that you're unable to move. This happens to many people and is natural. If this happens before projection, then you are very close to a successful astral session. If it happens after projection, just wait for a few minutes and it will go away. What are the Akashic Records? And do I access them? The Akashic Records are the huge etheric library that contain all the records of every thought, word, and action since the beginning of time. The library also contains records of lives lived, lessons learned, and even future lives. Psychics can peek into the astral records, and so can you. All you have to do is work on developing your psychic abilities, and with astral projection, you're already on your way. What is the silver cord? It's an energy cord that connects the physical body to the astral body. Your two bodies communicate with each other through this silver cord. Don't worry about your silver cord being severed while astral projecting. It breaks only when you die. Is there a trigger to leave the physical body? If so, where is it located? No one really knows exactly where it is, because it's different for everyone. We have 7 major energy chakras in our spiritual body: the base of the spine, the navel, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown, or the top of the head. And the trigger lies in your most active chakras. Of course, this will differ from person to person. What can I do about my mental block, which tells me that I can only perceive through my physical senses? Well, from the moment you were born, you perceived and gained knowledge about everything through the physical senses only. So it can be hard to believe that you have other senses too. But once you're out of your physical body, you'll realize that you can perceive your surroundings without the physical senses that you once relied so heavily on. You'll also notice that your new set of senses is much more enhanced and more powerful than your old set, the physical set. Are we able to smell, see in color, hear, feel warmth and cold, etc. while astral projecting? No, because we don't use the physical senses. If we do feel hot or cold, it's because our physical bodies are feeling hot or cold, and that feeling is transferred to the astral body by the silver cord. How can I astral travel at will? Well, there are several steps. First, you need to learn how to get rid of your fears. Then you need to become familiar with the astral environment and learn how to control your thoughts. This takes a lot of personal mastery. Once I've left my body, how do I stay outside of it? The first few times you project, staying out of your body won't be very easy. And this is due to the fact that the attraction between the physical body and the astral body is very powerful. Therefore, your astral body will want to jump back into your physical body, is to be very alert and conscious and exercise a strong willpower while you are projecting. How do I acquire talents in the astral plane and carry them to the physical plane? You will carry your experiences and knowledge you acquire in the astral plane to your physical world almost automatically. There's no need to put forth any special effort to remember acquired talents or forcibly keep them on the astral plane. Can I have 100% control of where I astral project, or will I go to unknown places independent of my will? You can control your astral projection, but it takes practice. At the beginning, you might find yourself unable to control where you go, or the speed with which you travel. You might travel too quickly and find yourself in outer space. But wherever you go, you will always be able to get back to your physical body by just thinking about it. But don't worry, with practice you'll be able to move according. Do other astral entities exist? Are they dangerous and can they hurt me? They do exist, but they can't hurt you unless you allow them to scare you. Remember, you can always surround yourself with a protective shield of electric white light. When you do this, the negative astral entities will immediately flee. Are there any physical risks during astral projection? There are no physical risks involved with astral projection. Your physical body will be perfectly relaxed and sleeping while your astral body will be exploring and learning. Even if you have a weak heart or other ailments, you can still astral project safely. Do I need to meditate? And if so, for how long should I meditate before I enter that special frame of mind to successfully astral project? Yes, you should meditate. There isn't a specific length of time, but you should meditate until you're in a state in which your mind is relaxed and completely clear of unwanted mental chatter. When you're at this level, you will have control over your thoughts and you'll be able to focus on astral projection much more easily. How do I avoid bad astral entities? Well, the way you do this is to avoid thinking about them and avoid being afraid of them. They are mindless creatures and won't hurt you unless you allow them to. Can the bad entities sever the silver cord? No, they can't. If that were true, there would be many cases of death during sleep because often when we sleep, we astral project unconsciously. Just remember, you are in full control of your body and your silver cord. Nobody can harm you or touch you against your will.
Now that you're sitting comfortably, I shall begin.
How long did it take you to learn how to do it?
It took me about 6 months before I was at the point where I could start doing Solomon's magic with a goetic mirror.
And it's a form of worship?
Yes, it is. It's my way of worshiping God.
We see the pagan gods and goddesses as personifications of forces of nature. And so we have a whole plethora of entities, and even down into the elements, where we have the gnomes and the earth, and we have the sylphs in the air, and we have the undines in the water, and then we have the salamanders in the fire. So we personify all of the elements and everything. We have a little entity of some kind or another, or a big entity for everything. Solomonic ceremonial magic basically can be broken down into two divisions. The invocation of the angels, the holy angels, to protect you and inspire you and fill you with the power of God, and then when you've got that mastered, then you set up the dark mirror and the triangle, and then you go for what some people would refer to as the demons. But you use that angelic power, which you've already acquired through the crystal ball in the center of the circle and on the altar, and you've got the power of those angels to control the demons that you evoke. You evoke them out of your deep mind. And so Solomonic magic, all the way from back in the Middle Ages, can be broken down into those two facets.
Tell me the procedure we're going to go through tonight, just what you're going to do, what we're going to see.
What you're going to see is the evocation stage of Solomon's magic. This is the advanced stage after you have gone through the series of angelic invocations, which we're not going to specifically do tonight. They've already been done. We've got the angels already inside us and on our side, but we are going to invoke those angels with a pentagram ritual. Mike's going to do that, Frater Solomon. He's going to invoke the angels of the pentagram ritual. Then I'm going to open up the psychic centers, because we are, as far as I know, we are the only lodge in the West that has a full operating system of chakras. We have all the planets and the spheres of the Kabbalistic tree of life right in one straight line. So we operate that way. So we're going to have a ritual after Mike does his pentagram ritual and establishes these four angels that we're talking about and gets them to protect us and cast the circle. Then I'm going to open up the particular sphere that we're working in, the lunar sphere. Then from there we're going to go on up to the sphere of Jupiter. And then we're going to circumambulate around the circle, the magic circle, clockwise, sunwise. And then we're going to get on that mirror, and Mike is going to be staring into the mirror, and I'm going to sit behind him as the Magus, and I'm going to conjure, and he will go into a trance. We'll both be in a trance, actually.
Before I'll ever do an operation, I usually know what spirit I'm going to do, and my mindset will already begin to be geared towards that spirit, and I'll already be interacting with the energies of that spirit. And then by the time I do the operation, the spiritual energies from that spirit will actually come inside of me, to the point that I'll be able to look in that mirror, and my reflection will actually morph into the spirit that I'm having a conversation with.
His reflection blanks out, and as I'm conjuring, then what comes back in is going to be the spirit.
What does it feel like? Are you aware of what's happening, or are you in a total trance? Can you remember what's happened?
I am aware of what is happening, but there is somewhat of a transformation that does occur. So what's inside of me isn't really what's me speaking. It's these ideas that are pouring through me from a foreign energy. And these foreign energies will begin to express themselves in their own unique ways that I'll eventually realize are not my own thoughts.
When we videotaped the actual summoning of the spirit in the temple, there were no rehearsals and no retakes. So what you're about to see is real, shown exactly as it happened. And in my professional opinion, it's one of the most remarkable documentations of a supernatural event ever recorded.
It lies in the Book of Spells.